What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka Totek and Tambo, back for another edition of the Thursday Night Football Picks and Bets Show. Want to wish a very happy Thanksgiving to all my American friends checking this out. We are going to strictly be talking the Thursday Night Football game between the Vikings and the Patriots. Get to that in a second. As always, we'll roll through the prize picks for the week. We'll talk the DraftKings slate. We'll get to the main slate. There's a lot to talk about there. Some interesting news came out today with quarterbacks and things like that. So we will get there. If you are just joining us for the first time, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe to the Mayo Media Network. We'll be back on Friday, myself and Pat Mayo, going through the main slate for this week. But also, if you want some of the 3-game stuff for the Thanksgiving slate starting tomorrow, recording this Wednesday, of course, you can check out the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. Myself, Big T, JSU will be on Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, going through the entire slate. It's a free show. Check that out, Run Pure Sports YouTube channel, or head over to runpuresports.com. Use promo code TURKEY50 to get signed up. All right, let's dive in. Like I said, we got a decent game tomorrow night. I know it's not the big game of the day. Everyone's excited for the starter with the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions. We, of course, have the game after that with the Dallas Cowboys and the Giants. But we're going to talk about this Patriots-Vikings game. We've got Patriots in Minnesota, total 42.5, and the Vikings are favored by 2.5. So that's interesting to me, at least. I'm going to talk my angles, and we'll go through it as always with everything. But I don't know. They just got crushed. I get that side of it. But at the same time, I think the Patriots can still get the job done here. So we'll see what this one shakes out like. Maybe we get a closer game, maybe a little bit higher scoring. I could definitely see this game going over the 42.5 total. Maybe the defense scores early, and then we pick up the pace from there, or these running backs capable of it. Maybe we can see that as well. But not much to talk about when it comes to injuries. A little bit on the Minnesota side, their offensive tackle. I forget the exact timeline, but there is down, has been down. That's what has caused them to get absolutely crushed. Other note, when they have been crushed in their 2 losses, they've put up almost no points. So if you watched last week, it was pretty bad. Tough scene in that game with Dallas and Minnesota, but it can happen. It could happen again here. We'll see. The other side, Devontae Parker for the Patriots, limited in practice. Looks like he should be able to go. We'll talk Aguilar, Bourne, those guys later on, but I think Parker will be eligible to go. Of course, they have Jacoby Myers there also, so we'll have to see when we get to that what thoughts are, but I definitely have some interest, at least in Jacoby Myers. But let's get to the prize picks, and we've got a special prize pick this week. So as always, you guys know this show is brought to you by PrizePicks.com. Head on over to PrizePicks.com, use promo code MMN, get yourself 100% bonus up to your first $100. And then this is the time to do it if you haven't already. Finally, the time to jump in. They have a free square, 0.5 yards, the receiving yards for Justin Jefferson. So obviously take the more on their site, more or less, as we're always going with our entry fee. Take that. You can pile it into these other 2 that I'm going to give you and get a 5x return on your money. So I've got 2 for this week. It's in the same game. I like Ramondre Stevenson over 59.5 rush yards. I know that Harris is back, but here's the thing. Harris has been back for some of the other games as well. And if you go back, 6 of his last 8 games, he's beat this number. Last week, he did it more through the passing game, but still, in this type of spot here, whether you think up or down, like I said, I tend to think they'll be fine and be up in this game. I still think Ramondre can beat this number of 59.5. I do see it higher at a lot of other places. So PrizePicks giving you a great number here. If you want to pause the video, go get it. Get signed up. Use that promo code MMN. You can put the Jefferson free square. You can put this in. And then the next one I'm about to give you, where you're going to get set up for a 5x payout for all 3, is the opposite side running back. And opposite of an over is an under. We're going with the Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook under 16.5 rush attempts. Looking back, he's only hit this 2 in the last 5 weeks. If you think they're going to be down like I do, I could see him picking up 5 or 6 more targets, but we'll take that when we've got the under 16.5 rush attempts, which is what we want to go with here. So I like this game setting up for New England to be up, the Vikings to be down, not seeing him get as many attempts on the way back. Obviously, they have Madison there as well, who could cut into it some, but just looking at it in general, the 2 picks are going to be quite easy. It's going to be Ramondre Stevenson over 59.5 rush yards, Dalvin Cook under 16.5 rush attempts, and then, of course, throw that free square in there, Justin Jefferson over 0.5 receiving yards, lock it in, 5x for all 3 put together. And you can mix other plays that you like throughout as we talk through the slate, but these are the 3 that stood out to me most. And if we get all those, we'll go 3 for 3 and get a nice 5x payout. All right, so let's move on to DraftKings as we always do. Again, going to the Thursday Night Football Showdown slate. $15 entry. They've got 250K up top. It is a nice one over on DraftKings there. Before we hop into it, though, do want to talk to you guys quickly about where you can find me on Twitter at ToeTagAndTambo. Add me there. Put my tidbits out every Saturday morning for the main slate, where you'll be able to get all the stuff I find and compile from around the industry. I basically curate the content, put it all together in one thread. So it's not one of those annoying threads I know everybody goes against. I put it out once a week. I do it during the PGA season as well. So it's been very helpful. A lot of people love it and have reached out. Follow me on Twitter at ToeTagAndTambo. And then talked about it off the top. RunPureSports.com. We never run promo codes. This is a one-time thing. Probably won't have another one till at least the new year, if not further out. But this is the time to get in. If you've been waiting, you can go to RunPureSports.com. Use the promo code TURKEY50. TURKEY50. Get set up on any monthly plan. You'll get 50% off. That's even if you want to go with the Sabre Sim with the optimizer, you'll get 50% off the monthly plan using the code TURKEY50. It gets you all sports, one price, in the premium Discord, able to ask your questions, be around like-minded individuals that are looking to get better at DFS, betting, everything that it goes with all of the things sports related. So all sports, one price. Check us out, runpuresports.com. Promo code is TURKEY50. Let's dive in. Let's talk some captains. We'll go up first here and have a look at it. Justin Jefferson at the top. Look, here's the thing. He's the number one priced option for a reason, but he's also facing the team with the coach that likes to remove the number one option. The challenge being with a guy like Justin Jefferson, it's sometimes hard to remove him. He can sort of stack up and rack up those yards and points on pretty much any team, get open at will, all of those factors. But you do see from last week, it's got to be at least a little bit scary going to look at the game log there when he played against Dallas. You sort of see what that floor can look like. 6.3 DraftKings points once they're out of the game. Like I said, I still see a spot here, at least for myself, where New England could be up here and maybe get away with it again and beat these guys down. So up to you if you want to go there. I'm not sure how much Jefferson I'll have up top. The guys I like, New England running backs. Stevenson, 14.4. He's $3,000 in the captain cheaper than Justin Jefferson. I do like that. If you want to take a shot on Damian Harris, I think you'd want to pair him up with the defense. So you start with Harris. He's only 10,200. You go down to the Patriots defense, and basically you just say the Patriots are going to get after Kirk Cousins here. Put that pressure. It's, again, don't forget some of the elephant in the room, I guess. Kirk Cousins in prime time, always bad. Kirk Cousins against pressure, not been good. Offensive tackle out, likely. Probably not a good scenario here for him. So again, I'm not sure how the line is what it is. They're favored by 2.5 right now. Maybe that changes by game time. Maybe it's a trap. I don't know. I don't believe in that stuff. I'm going with what I watch and what I see. I think there's a chance here that we see the Patriots handle them. So I like this setup with Harris up in the captain, 10,200. The Patriots at 4,200 in the flex leaves you almost 8,900. This is where you could still plug in a Jefferson. You still have 8,000 left for your final three spots. So lots you can do with that starting point. I definitely like that. Going back to it too, again, not maybe for the 3-game slate or something, maybe, I don't know, but you know, your risk tolerance, I'll probably have at least one. But if you go to Mac Jones, and that's talking if I'm playing like a 5-max tomorrow, we'll see about my strategy this evening on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. But the Mac Jones in the captain, he spreads it out a little bit. And when you've got Myers, likely Devontae Parker, 2 tight ends in Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, you've got the Aguilars, the Bournes. What if Tyquan Thornton gets in more? He spreads it out. So you can definitely see Mac Jones in the captain here. And then you still have 7,300 per player. Probably want to pair him up at least once. Maybe you could run one in, but you know, take away from your running back. But you could go Mac Jones, Jacoby Myers. If you think that's part of what leads to the blowout, you could then plug in Damian Harris and the Patriots. And you still now, with 2 slots open, you have 8,650 left per player. So I do think that is pretty interesting, actually, to start with him up top. You can also flip it. Jacoby Myers, I think he's obviously their number one, even if Parker's back, as we would expect. That's fine. It's just that's the worry, is if it isn't just Jacoby Myers' game, and I'll talk more on this example in a second, you now have it where it's probably Mac Jones, because if it's Myers for just 1 touchdown and 80 yards, but then Aguilar gets a touchdown and Jonnu Smith gets a touchdown, then you got to flip it. It's likely Mac Jones, who you see in the captain slot. Now, to flip that on the other side, and the reason I don't love Kirk Cousins in the captain slot here, even though he's somewhat affordable, he's a couple thousand less than Jefferson, he keeps it condensed, which is nice to know for stacking. That's more of a main slate play, though, or the 3-game slate, because now you know, okay, it's just him, Jefferson Hawkinson. Let's say you believe that's who it truly is. It has been kind of that way, especially since Hawkinson joined the Vikings. But I'm just saying now it's like, what if Jefferson has the 10 for 180 and a touchdown game and he does shake them and get away with it? It's very likely him and the captain and not Kirk Cousins. He doesn't really spread it out enough where you could see that happening. If Hawkinson gets 2 touchdowns here, it's still likely him in the captain with 8 catches, 2 touchdowns, and 65 yards, just making up stats. It's still likely him in the captain. So I would rather be messing around with that. Hawkinson, Thielen, if you can get to Jefferson. I just don't see a lot of great value plays on this slate for this Thursday night football game. So it's up to you how you do it up top there. Maybe the kickers, if you wanted to jam in just sort of, if you think it's a closer game and we get it where it's around the total of 42.5, but it's a closer game, you could definitely see one of the kickers be up top. And then those, massive so as far as volume plays go in the flex, where you've got your Cousins, your Jefferson, your Hawkinson, Jacoby Myers, and whoever fits. That's another example where you could look at that there and just see how it shakes out, just giving an idea of what you could do. So I think that's another way to look at it. As far as the flex goes, obviously all the guys we've talked about apply, but this is where I think you can take just a one shot. Right? You can get away with a shot of someone that could come through. Bourne and Aguilar basically splitting snaps right now. I got no problem plugging them in. One's 3,400, one is 2,200. Henry and Jonnu Smith, almost the identical price. 3,200, 3,000. Henry's been sort of an every down, every snap type of guy, but Jonnu Smith is still out there and definitely could see a touchdown from him in the red zone, end zone type area that you could get it and take it from him, take it away. So I don't mind you mixing those guys. Probably set up a rule on both those, at most 1, Aguilar, Bourne, at most 1, Jonnu Smith, Henry. Maybe you even set up a rule where it's at most 2 of the entire group of 4 after you set up the at most 1 group, meaning you would only get, Aguilar, Jonnu. And while it seems thin, if you had Mac Jones in the captain, you could then just fill it out with the Minnesota guys from the other side. If that's who he ends up targeting, that's who you could end up being set up with as winners in your lineup. So don't hate that. The kickers who we talked about. Another guy would be KJ Osborne. If you go down and look, he's getting a lot of snaps. It's just always risky because you're not sure what you're going to get out of him. But like last week, for example, 3.7 DraftKings points is horrible. But don't forget, it was the same game Justin Jefferson, for much more money, got 6.7. So it's 3 points more for Jefferson in that spot. I definitely do not expect that again. I'm not advocating for this. I'm just saying where you could put Osborne in. I don't think you need to set up rules, really. It's, you've got Jefferson, Hawkinson, Osborne, Thielen. That's your big 4. If Mund, the backup tight end, steals a touchdown, I don't even know if it would get you there on this slate, because if that's all he does, it's not really going to be a lot of points. If you look, I think he had a touchdown recently back in, week 8. He had a touchdown, 7.1 DraftKings points. I don't think that's going to cut it here. And at the end of the day, while he is just $600, it doesn't mean you have a guarantee to get everything else into your lineup that way. So I wouldn't spend too much time on it. If he gets you a touchdown, 3 catches, and 40 yards, then it's a whole different story. But typically I'm aiming for the double digits, getting into all my spots. And I think there's plenty of other ways we can get there based on how we talked about the game playing out, just my feel at least leading into it. So to me, pretty cut and dry. When it comes to this slate, I do feel good about it already. This is Wednesday afternoon recording, getting ready for the holiday celebrations tomorrow, getting ready for, I'm in Canada, but I'm always loving celebrating American Thanksgiving. So I'll be watching all the games, playing the 3-game slate, playing this Thursday night football slate. I'm definitely interested. And I think this game feels pretty good to me, at least how it shakes out. I like it. It's more cut and dry than I think some of the other games on the slate where we could have a lot of other things happen here. This game, even if you don't believe my theory that the Patriots win, I can still say that you can build pretty much identical if you think it goes to a closer game or a higher scoring game, because even then I don't see the running backs being involved as much, in the sense that, in that game, sorry, not the running backs being involved, but them being the full focus of it. So you'd still have Cousins, Thielen, Hawkinson, you'd still have those guys in there, whether they're up or down. It could still work in your favor depending on the game script. If they're down, those guys should still be getting peppered. If they're up, it's a tough matchup for Dalvin Cook and Minnesota. We already went with the prize pick, the under before. That's what I was trying to get to here, is that you could still see it being because of them that they're up. So I love games like this where the script doesn't really matter as much when you're talking about. Now, if you have New England blowing them out, you have to talk about the script in the perspective of what I brought up earlier, where it's going to be Damian Harris, the Patriots D. Mac Jones probably still does just enough. maybe you're running a 4-2 or a 5-1 New England. That would be a spot I could see it work here. So that's totally different. So really just those two game scripts for me. Do whatever you want because it's either New England in a close game or it's just a close game in general. Minnesota does cover the spread, or New England blowing them out. That's sort of the two scripts that I'm playing for. All right, moving over to the main slate now. A couple notes up front. So the slate, no buys this week on the main slate. Thanksgiving, having the 3 games obviously takes away from the main. So we've got an 11-game slate here, and it's a little bit interesting. We're going to do, as always, go position by position, but the reason I say it's interesting, couple notes. First off, you go to quarterback, absolutely loaded. Mahomes, Lamar, Fields, we have to wait and see. Talk more on him in a minute. Herbert, Tua, Kyler, have to wait and see. Looks like he'll be okay, though. Joe Burrow, and then from there, it's sort of all those medium guys or the mid-tier guys that we usually look for value. I'm just not sure you're going to get there this week with all these options up above. But 2 interesting notes. 1, Fields looks like he could be out. That would be Trevor Siemian. So if you're looking on this slate for value, ultimate value, $4,900. Not sure if it's the way to go here, but just a note. Funny enough, you go back to that game, the opposite side, the New York Jets announced today Zach Wilson will be a healthy inactive for this game. They will be starting Mike White, who is also $4,900 with Joe Flacco as his backup. So not saying you have to go here. It's not a pretty game. You've got the Bears versus the Jets in New York, but should be very defensive, could be. But if you did want to get a cheaper option, it's almost like you're paying up or way down, and that's something to think about. We'll talk more on Friday, myself and Pat Mayo doing the show right here on the Mayo Media Network. If you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, do so now. Hit the thumbs up. It helps get this video out there to more people that can find it, can keep doing these videos for free for you guys, of course. So that's the interesting note there. If you go to running back, it's also very stacked. It's Christian McCaffrey, Eckler, Henry, Chubb, Jacobs, Kamara. We'll wait and see on Mixon. But then even below that, that's where it gets even further. You've got Kenneth Walker III. You've got Travis Etienne. You've got James Conner, who's been getting a lot of the volume lately for Arizona. And if Kyler was out for whatever reason, even if he's in, it probably still boosts him through the receiving game. And then you've got David Montgomery there at 6,400. A lot of good options here. So what this tells me from a slate perspective is pay up at quarterback, pay up at running back will be popular. The interesting part about that is, though, is last week everyone went to look for these wide receiver values, realizing that a lot of them were a little bit more than they wanted to pay. The Paris Campbells, the Donovan Peoples-Jones, all that. They still got to them. Those guys still put up some points. I'm just saying it was a struggle for most looking at it. So we will have to try and find some value here. It is still loaded at wide receiver because of the quarterbacks and attached to them their stacks. You've got the Tyreeks, the Devontae Adams, Hopkins, Waddle, Higgins, all those guys that can put up big games. And then, of course, that mid-tier range. But just scrolling down, it is really hard. You know, if you go down, Drake London, 4,900. Peoples-Jones, not much of a boost, 4,800. Go to Zay Jones, 4,600. Like, this is where it gets a little bit tough. We're going to have to wait and see on these injuries. I could see maybe some of these Jets with the situation with Mike White starting, maybe pick up a little bit of steam. Nico Collins, same price as last week. People played him at 4,100. He put up 9.8, but he is still getting the targets, 10 and 7 the last 2 weeks. So I do see people finding at least a little bit of reason to go down here and hunt for value, but mainly because the setup of the roster construction with the expensive quarterback and the 6K above running backs, it will lead you into sort of this mid-tier. It's also interesting at the tight end position to round things out because obviously if we've got Mahomes and we've got Lamar, you know what that means at tight end. And it's the first time in a while that we've had Kelsey and Andrews back on the main slate. We've got Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, RIP Kyle Pitts going to IR. That's unfortunate, but you've got Higbee still. And this is where just starting at Higbee, it gets interesting because basically 3,200 up to 4,200, just a ton of options. And again, going back to what I said before with the quarterbacks and the running backs leading to this, I think where people will feel more comfortable is getting to those mid-tier wide receivers by going down at tight end. So I think Kelsey and Andrews will be left untouched at least a little bit. Again, here we'll see how the week shakes out, but just based on what I'm thinking on early roster construction, when you have this range, let me just list a few, 3,200 to 4,200. Go to starting at the bottom. Ingram, Fant, Hurst, Cade Otton, Jawan Johnson, Moreau, Njoku, Dulcich, Kmet, Higbee, Gesicki's in there too, but just that Noah Fant Ingram range up to Higbee has all the guys that people have been playing. The Dulciches of the world, the Moreaus, Jawan Johnson scored last week, Hurst, you can go there. There's just a lot of options and good matchups and good prices on these guys. So I do expect people to be finding guys in there, and maybe like last week, we saw a lot of people do this, go back to the 2 tight end route again, where you could play 2 of those guys and end up getting the better wide receivers versus trying to punt down. And it was interesting the way it shook out last week, because it was, guys like Donovan Peoples-Jones had a great week with 17 points, but if you could have paid up to his wide receiver, the wide receiver one there, his counterpart in Amari Cooper, you got like 35 DraftKings points, and he was 6,400. So a fair price at a mid-tier range. And I think, just going back to talk on that for 2 seconds, if you go back here to the 6K range, T. Higgins went down in price. He was 7,100 last week and put up 26.8. Now he's down to 6,900. Deebo Samuel, Mike Evans, Chris Olave, Christian Kirk, $6,500 after a 34.5 and a 21.6 game. Going up here in a spot against Baltimore at home, I could see him picking up a little steam. Cooper stayed the same price. Ayuk stayed the same price, and he's coming off 16, 13, 20, 15, and 28. All solid games. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes when you see people paying down and trying to make a case or a story for a cheaper option, sometimes you need to change your construction or just move things a little bit to try and find just that couple extra dollars to be able to get up there. Even if it is 1,000 or 2,000, there is places that you can find it. Just using examples. Quarterback, Mahomes is 8,200, Herbert's 7,000. It's $1,200. I know it's Herbert versus Mahomes, but Herbert looked like he was back last week and put up 20.7. So if he can have a better game here against Arizona in the Dome in Arizona, I could have no problem saving that $1,200. And that's the difference at wide receiver from 4,600 to 5,800, for example. So just keeping those little things in mind as you're going out about your roster construction, I think is extremely important. Keep that in mind going in. Keep us in mind on Friday. Myself, Pat Mayo, talked about it a couple times. We'll be back. The DraftKings preview show, going through all things week 12. Week 12? Week 12. I had it right the first time. So we're going through it, getting through the season fast here as we keep talking about it. But we'll be going through all things DraftKings exposures, going through your stacks, setting up ideas and game theory on if this, then that. We'll talk about defense. I got us back on track last week, bringing up the defense segment where we're going through and picking some options versus what the field is doing, reasons why we may be on them or off others if they are popular. Going through all of that stuff, of course, on Friday. As I said before, you know where you can find me on Twitter, at ToeTagAndTambo. Hit me up there if you have any questions, want to know about any of the promotions, things we've got going on, at RunPureSports.com. Promo code TURKEY50. It ends on Sunday. I forgot to mention that earlier. It's, like I said, it's a one-time thing, very straightforward. It's 50% off any monthly plan. If you've been on the fence, now is the time to check it out. It's a 1-month trial. It's just over $1 a day that you're paying. So if you're playing any kind, I don't care what your budget is, $10, $20 a day that you're playing in defense or in DFS, $50 a week. If you're doing that, it's all in your favor, where it's a very little cost to get on the inside behind the paywall, see what's going on, all sports, one price. Check us out there. Again, I'll wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving to all my American friends. Appreciate you always following along my content, watching me, following me on Twitter, all of those things. Thanks for everything. Good luck in your contest this week, and I'll see you back here next week, same time.